Hi guys, welcome to the Cricut Craft Room. I'm Anna Rose. Last week we shared a helpful video about how to use transfer tape with Smart Vinyl. Go check it out if you missed it. Today we're back with more tips and tricks. Today's topic are some of our favorite features in Design Space: weld, group, and attach. First, we'll play a pre-recorded video from our friend Paula where she walks through each of these features step by step. After the video, join me back here for a live Q&A. Start asking questions in the comments as they come up. Ready? Let's go.
Hi everyone, it's Paula and I'm here in the Cricut Craft Room today, and we're going to be talking about weld, attach, and group, what the differences are and what you use them for. So we're going to hop over to Design Space and get started. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do is we are going to talk about weld. Welding makes it so your image becomes one new complete image. So if we're going to start with some shapes, and if we select a square and a triangle, and let's say we're going to make a cute little house. So we're going to set those on top of each other. And there we go. There's our house. But once we hit make it, it takes it away. So it cuts them side by side instead of the triangle on top of the square. One way that we can remedy this is by selecting both of the shapes and clicking on weld. Now you can see that that cut line in the middle from the triangle and the top of the square is no longer there. So if we hit make it now, it is going to cut all as one image. The only way to undo weld in Design Space is using our undo button. So we would click on this and then hit undo, and it takes those two apart again for us. Once a welded image is saved, you will not be able to go back and undo that. You would have to create a different image. Another time that we use weld is when we're cutting out words. So if we add the word hello, we're going to change this, we're going to pick a different font. And let's see, we'll try the Alexis. And we're going to change this. It's going to be our cut. So as you can see, this is kind of a scrolly little font and looks like it would be a cursive font. So now we want these to be a little bit closer together, and we need them to be welded together so there's no cut lines when you're weeding your vinyl or your iron-on. One way that you can bring your letters closer together is the letter spacing. And you can use the up or down arrows, or you can just pick a number and see how close it gets them. All right, as you can see, our E and our L are very close together, but they aren't all close together. So while this is selected, you can right click and go to ungroup. This is going to make each one of your letters its own image on our layers panel over here. And now you can move each of the letters individually from the other. So we're just going to move those so they're attached and they look like a cute little cursive writing. I suggest working with these when they're larger and then resizing them down to the size that you need so you can make sure that you're getting them all together the way you want them to look. So if we go and highlight all of these, make it a little bit bigger, you can see that my lines here and here are just a touch off. So I'm going to see if I can, I'm going to see if I can add those closer so that they're a little more even. And if it's not perfect, that is okay. Alrighty, put that O back where it belongs. And there you go. So now you can see they're all together, written the way we want them to look. However, from this screen, if we go to make it, it is going to arrange our letters in just the best way that the Design Space feels that it'll fit on the mat to get the most out of your mat. that obviously does not say hello to us. So you are going to want to highlight all of your letters and use Weld. That is going to take all these cut lines out. Attach, which is another option for us to use when adding things together, will not take those cut lines away. The only thing that will take the cut lines away is Weld. So now when we go to make it, it's going to add all of this together as one cut. The H will be separate because it's the standalone H, but the rest will cut out all together. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about attach. So we're going to go ahead and take that one off our screen. And now we're going to go to images. All right, we are going to search for some hearts. And as you can see here in Design Space, we have a lot of little heart options, a lot of them, and they're so cute. But we're going to find something that maybe has 2 or 3 hearts all together. Okay, let's add an S there and see if that gets us our hearts quicker. There we go. All right, so we're going to add this and this, and then we're going to add this. All right, so here we have all of our different hearts. Now, if I'm arranging these, say I want to put these all on a shirt. I'm arranging these and I want the big heart to be here in the middle. And then I want these little hearts trailing off here to the side. And then I want to take these cute little hearts and put them right in the middle there of the empty cutout heart. This is exactly how I want my image to look. This is exactly how I want it to go onto my, say if I'm making a shirt with iron-on, this is exactly how I want it to go on there. However, when I go to make it, it puts the hearts other places. And even these hearts are on a different screen because they were in Design Space as a different color. I want them to be all the same color and all to go in the same spot. So what I'm going to do is highlight all of these and I'm going to attach them. That's going to make them all the same color. And when I go to make it, it is going to leave that all together where I want it to be. So it's going to cut those there. So then I'm not having to place those again when I want to put them on my material. They're already exactly where I want them to be. Okay, so now we're going to talk about group. And when you're grouping or ungrouping something, it basically keeps your images together or your words together on the screen to make it easier for sizing and for how it's going to look, and when you're working with layers to make sure that everything is sized correctly for how you need it. So if we are going to use this heart, and then in red, we're going to say, I love you. We're going to click on this and change that to red. All right. So now, if we resize this to go under our heart, but we need this whole image to be a different size. Now we can highlight it and then make it bigger or smaller, but once we click off of that, now if I try to move something, it moves independently. So what we're going to do is highlight this, and we can use group up here, just click on that. Or if you use right click, you have the option of group or ungroup. So now that this is grouped together, even if I click off of it and I click back, it's still going to be all together. So I can manipulate my size and do different things to it, but when I click make it, it's still going to cut out the way it needs to. It's going to cut out the solid, it's going to cut out the cutout hearts, and then it's going to cut out the I love you, all on their separate colors. Now, if you notice, when we do this, if I were to just hit attach instead of group, it makes everything all the same color. Group is something that we use in Design Space to make sure that we are able to keep our proportions together, we're able to keep our layers together, and that we don't have to individually try to manipulate the size. So now that we've talked about group and weld and attach, you guys are ready to start using more layers, using more images, and combining your words and your phrases together to have your projects look how you have them planned out to look, but the Design Space does most of the work for you. All right, we are so grateful that you guys were able to join us today and learn about group and weld and attach. And if you have questions about other things, make sure you check out our videos and see if we can help you learn how to use your new Cricut machine even better. Thanks.
Welcome back. Wasn't that video so helpful? Now's the time for question and answers. I have a special guest here today, and she is an expert on Design Space, Courtney Haymond. She'll answer questions live, and then we will always go back later to continue to answer questions. Okay, we're gonna swap places.
Hey everyone, I'm Courtney, as Enra said, and I'm very excited to talk to you today and answer questions about 3 of my favorite Design Space features, which are attach, weld, and group. So let's get started with the questions.
Okay, first question. Can you attach text to a shape and then have a pen write the text?
You absolutely can, and the trick here is to make sure that your text is a writing font, or that you've chosen writing or drawing as the line type. So if you want, we can just jump over to the computer real quick and I can show you exactly how that works. Okay, so we have Design Space here. And so let's say I'm just going to put it on a really simple square shape. Let's change colors on this so that you can see it better. And now we're going to, I always default to the word hello. I don't know why, but it's just such a happy greeting, right? Okay, so I have my greeting here, and you'll notice that if I look in line type up here, it says cut. So one of the first things I'm going to do is change it to a draw. Now what I can do is I can select both, and I can go down here to attach. And that way it will draw that out rather than cut it out. But you also notice, and this is because I love fonts as well, so we're going to teach you a small other trick here. I know it wasn't part of the video, but just have to tell it to you because I love it. We're going to detach this real quick. But if you go over here to where it says style, you'll notice it says regular or writing. So if you choose writing, you'll notice that my font has now changed, and it is specifically meant for writing, and it won't do the bubble letters like it was when you change it from cut to draw. So just a little bit of a tidbit there for you, extra little snippet of information. So just remember, if you're going to do drawing, you want to change your font to writing if you want the actual writing font. Okay.
Another question?
Yeah, next question.
Can you unweld after you've saved a project and closed out of that project?
Really good question. So welding is more permanent. Welding is like super gluing something together. So what we're going to do is, I'll show you on Design Space here since we're still there, I believe. If I have my letters here, I'm going to go ahead and, if you can see this, you can see the lines in between each letter, right? Because all the letters are separate right now. If I press weld, now you can't see those individual lines. It becomes one image. Now, where I'm at right now, as I've just done it, I can easily press undo. But if I welded and then went and did a bunch of other things on this project and got it to where I wanted it to be, I couldn't press undo without undoing all of those other things that I've done. So one trick that I like to do is if I'm going to weld, I will just create a duplicate of what I'm going to weld, and I will just hide that in my project so that if something happens and I need to have it unwelded, I just have the duplicate of what I had before. And that's a simple trick so that you can still try something out and weld it together, but kind of have your cake and eat it too.
Okay, another question?
Absolutely.
What's the difference between attaching and welding text, and why would you use attach over weld?
Also, all of these are really good questions. So attach versus weld. I like to think of attach as a paper clip. If you have a bunch of pieces of paper, you can paper clip them together. And as I said before, welding is like gluing them. So I would use weld. If we go back to Design Space real quick, I would use weld in this instance where I have a cursive font and I want all of the letters to cut out as one image so there isn't a break in between letters. However, if I have multiple letters or multiple sayings or words on the canvas and they're not necessarily needing to be cut in one instance, for instance, I have this little thing here, you'll notice that two of my words are the same color. And I want to keep my spacing because I've spaced them out exactly how I want them to be. So I can, and I have them grouped here so that I can move them around on the canvas. We're going to ungroup real quick. I can select both of these. And then I can attach them so that when I go to make it, you can see the other one on here, but you can see how my spacing is still there for those two letters so that I don't have to respace them again. So I like to use attach when I'm trying to keep things spaced in a certain orientation, and I use weld to cut things out where they're connected.
Okay, awesome. This one might be a little bit tricky. She says, hi, I have a problem that occurs sometimes when I weld and then slice. After welding, I click on slice, and for some reason some of my image is cut off. The letter edges are cut off. How do I fix that?
Okay, hopefully I'm understanding this correctly. So when you're slicing, if some of your letters get cut off, I believe it's because sometimes you're overlapping things. So you want to make sure that when you're looking, in fact, let me bring up a different one here so we can look at this. So we have like vector lines, if you know what those are. So we have these lines in Design Space. If I were to come in here and ungroup to letters, if I cross one over the other and break that line for the middle, it's going to cut off the edge of this L, but then it's also sometimes going to fill in the O. So you just need to be really careful of how close you have things together when you're welding them before you go into slicing, because that can affect how your image will look. So just be aware of that.
Okay, great. So we didn't really talk about group. Why would you use group over attach?
So weld, like I said, is like glue. That's how I like to think about it, gluing something together. Attach is like putting a paper clip on it. And I like to think of group as putting a bunch of pieces in a plastic bag. I can create a project with a bunch of different colored pieces, and then I can put them all in a plastic bag and carry them around with me. That's how it is on the canvas. So if we go back to the canvas, and let's say that we can leave this all separate. Let's say we're going to have all these letters separate. And I want them all to be a different color. Maybe I'm making a sign or something, but I want to be able to resize it and change the font or whatever. So I'm gonna not change the cut type. Hello. Okay, change the color here. So I have my different colors, but I want them to stay in this orientation. So you'll notice I can move them individually. I'm going to select them all and group them. So now I can move them around my canvas as if I put them in their own little plastic bag. I can resize them. I can flip them around if I wanted, whatever I want there. But when I go to the canvas, because I want them to be all separate colors, it will now put each individual color on its own mat. So group is great for when you have a multicolored project, multi-layered project, and you want to be able to resize, move it around your canvas, and still keep the orientation so you don't lose it. That's what you want to use group for. It's all on the canvas. Attach is to keep your orientation on the map preview, and weld is so that it cuts everything out in one piece. So if you remember those three things, plastic bag, group it together, paperclip, attach, and glue is like weld.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
Yes, this is a good one. I hope I'm understanding what she's saying too. How do you click into your Word box to change the letters or wording? My issue is I type something and do all of this, the picks and styles, and decided to add my wording, but then I can't. So I think maybe she's welded and she can't go back.
Yes. So if I have a word here, so we'll go back, we'll open this back up here. So I've typed out hello, and if I double click, it brings up my text box so I can change it to something else. Now, even if I go up to advanced and I ungroup to letters, I can click on that letter and it'll bring up a text box again. But if I weld it, Design Space now considers that a brand new image. It's not even text anymore, it's an image. So I can't click into a text box. You'll notice if I click it, no text comes up, no options to edit the text comes up because it's now an image rather than a text box or letters. So once you weld, no longer text, it's an image. So that's why you can't click into a text box.
That's awesome. Okay, we don't have any other questions. Do you have any other tips and tricks you want to share with us?
I think that's about it. So I would just remember that the more you play with it, the better you're gonna get. It took me a while to really get the hang of like what I needed each of these for, but now that I know how to use them, I use them constantly. And they're, like I said, probably my 3 most favorite things to use. And so just jump into Design Space, have a lot of fun, test it out, make a lot of projects, just make all the things. Okay, so, but anyway, thanks for joining us today, guys. We have a lot more videos in Design Space, especially for beginners, so check out the beginners playlist on this channel, and make sure that you subscribe and turn on notifications, ring the little bell if you want to be notified when we have other videos like this happening in the future. We've got a lot of exciting ones coming up, so make sure you do that, and we'll see you later.